Hi, Nicole. Happy 2023. So you are white and I'm Asian with a little bit of a golden hue. It's okay to acknowledge our differences. And since you're not very familiar in talking about race, I am reading this book, so you want to talk about race on my podcast, and maybe it can help you out.
This is so on point, right? Because why are we having to coddle white people and protect their belief that they're not racist, that they can't be racist because they're not outright racist? You know what I mean? Why is that the priority and not the fact that we are getting cut down everywhere we turn? That's our daily existence.
All right, guys. So I stumbled across this clip of this based Asian who he sounds conservative. I'm not sure if he's actually conservative politically, but he sounds pretty conservative because nowadays, being for, equal rights for everybody, okay, being colorblind, okay, loving America, loving this country, and common sense is now, conservative. That's a conservative thing, right? So I mean, I guess I guess you could say he's conservative, but he's definitely based for sure. He is going to trigger a panel of leftists and SIMPS with just basic facts and logic on a variety of social topics. So I want to break down this debate, this clip here from Vice, and kind of give you guys my opinion on it. But first, we have to have a word from the sponsor of this video, Noble Gold. Noble Gold Investments is pleased to let you know that gold is the best investment class for 2022. According to longtermtrends.net, gold has actually outperformed the S&P 500, Dow, and Bitcoin for 2022. So what are you waiting for? Open a gold IRA or silver IRA with Noble Gold Investments this month and receive a free 1/4 ounce American Gold Eagle coin with every qualified IRA purchase or rollover of $50,000. You can't go wrong with Noble Gold Investments and their thousands of 5-star reviews. So call the team now at 877-646-5347. That is 877-646-5347, or visit Noble Gold today at noblegoldinvestments.com. But just remember, there's always a risk of investment and there's no guarantee of any kind. So the first clip we got to talk about here is the question of, is assimilation a good thing or a bad thing? Take a look.
Assimilation. Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Is it a burden? Is it an opportunity?
It's not just a great thing, it's a necessary thing.
Huh.
No society can hold together where people have nothing in common, they don't speak the same language, they don't practice the same things. And, you may look at something like just food habits or what you eat and think that's fairly frivolous. But the truth of the matter is that on a broader level, when we're talking about more big picture things, differences in race, culture, religion, all these things, people have fought wars, violent wars, killed each other over these things for thousands of years. If America is to hold together, assimilation, not just good or bad, necessary. I don't think it's going to be possible for America to survive as a stable, functioning society if people don't, to some degree, say, well, here's what we're going to commonly agree upon.
But who gets to choose it?
The majority culture, I suppose.
And what's majority culture?
The people with power.
And who's people with power?
People with power.
White people.
Well, I don't know if that's.
I'm gonna say it.
Yeah.
White people. It's okay.
I don't know if that's necessarily so true. I mean,
Wait, can you
look
unpack?
at, I don't
elaborate.
I don't think a particularly white, quote unquote, interest controls things like
in America,
pop culture.
Do you believe white supremacy exists?
I think there are people who believe in it. I think there's people who all believe that their race is superior.
So you don't believe in white supremacy?
Do you believe America is a white supremacist state?
No, not at all.
And not found.
No white supremacist state would even allow us to be doing this. I don't understand. So white supremacists, there's just KKK people walking. Actually, I go around New York City. I notice that, I guess Brooklyn a little bit different. Most of the people here are not white, and they're doing their thing. So I don't understand.
What does doing their thing mean to you?
Going to work.
Are they making the same amount of money?
The more in common that a society has with one another, the more likely they are to work together and build things in society, not constantly be fighting each other and at odds with each other.
Did you think the Japanese internment was a good thing? Because that was a real assimilation situation. You know what I mean?
No, I don't.
Do you recognize that the term assimilation has negative history and facts associated with that word? So we do have to be careful in how we choose, because assimilation for people of color have not been good to us historically. That's factual. So let me ask you.
We're discussing the model minority myth
but
and the fact
Japanese
that
internment is a classic example of assimilating Asian Americans.
no,
So
it's
do you
not.
think
It's a
that-
classic example of internment. I mean, they intern people.
Why?
Like, it's
Why?
not-
Yes.
To
Why did they
correlate that to
Why did they intern them? Because they saw them as other. Because they saw them as dangerous.
not really. Well, yes, they saw them as dangerous because, and I don't agree with it. But left-wing president FDR at the time saw it as a national security
So
risk.
you're
or
a
whatever.
Republican, right?
So
You're
let's-
right-wing, right?
I want to make sure.
Yeah, so some of you guys may find what I'm saying here to be controversial, but I'm just saying it based off the facts because many studies have found that racial diversity is associated with more crime in neighborhoods. And what I mean by racial diversity, what it really means is cultural diversity, right? This is rooted in what they call social disorganization theory. Okay, you study this stuff when you study sociology in college, which basically says that racially diverse settings undermine social cohesion among residents and neighbors, in a neighborhood or whatever, right? In my opinion, I think it's not because of their race per se, it's because of cultural differences, right? And I think that is why you see more crime. And that's why I think, generally speaking, I think people should try to assimilate into the dominant culture, okay? And when you have cultures that are clashing too much like we do right now in America, and it's not even really a racial thing as much as it really is just a political thing, liberal versus conservative, rural versus urban, woke versus common sense, what you're saying is that there are states like Texas that are routinely talking about succeeding because they don't want to be a part of a country that is being run by a small group of liberals in places like Los Angeles and New York and DC and Chicago, places that are hellholes, right? They're deciding what's best for the whole country, and that creates conflict. But in general, yes, if an immigrant comes over here or something like that, yeah, they should assimilate into the dominant culture, right? They should try to assimilate into America, learn the language, learn the values, learn the customs. Because if you move to another country or any other country on earth, you're going to be expected to do the same thing, right? You just can't go to some other foreign country and start trying to bring your values and trying to change things and to do things your way. No, you got to do the things the way that country does. You got to speak their language. You got to follow their laws. You got to follow their rules. You got to follow their customs. That's just how it is. And it should be the same here in America. And it's hilarious because the woke leftists are always preaching to us about how we need to be more like Norway and Sweden and Finland. We need to be more like the Nordic countries. But they always leave out the fact that those countries are racially and culturally homogeneous, right? They always leave that out. I think that some of the best things about those countries, again, controversial statement here, is probably the fact that they aren't all that diverse from a racial or cultural perspective. And there are benefits to that, right? There are benefits to everybody assimilated into one, dominant culture. And in America, the dominant culture is not whiteness as much as just traditional American values. Like, for example, the Protestant work ethic, which I strongly believe in, English manners and customs and stuff like that. And, valuing the nuclear family. But apparently, according to the woke leftists, this is whiteness, right? This is whiteness. But again, this so-called whiteness has worked out well for the Asians.
Statistically, it is true that Asians, right, on average, make more money, in terms of medium, make more money, better test scores, get into better colleges, all that stuff. I think the question is, why is that? And I don't know, model minority, whatever that label wants to mean.
That's actually a myth because we cannot be...
Well, no, listen. Well, let me finish my point. We need to observe what makes people successful and unsuccessful. And I think when you look at trends that are generally true in the Asian community, not of everyone, but are generally true, usually you have families that are sticking together. You have, people are taught to work hard in school, not get into trouble. I think that translates to why Asians en masse are successful. And I don't think you have to be Asian or white for that matter to not have kids out of wedlock, not, commit crime, not cause trouble, whatever it is. It's just a matter of common sense. That's what makes people successful. And if that's so-called assimilation, having a nuclear family, buying a house, going to school, whatever it is, then yeah, okay, call me a pro-assimilation then.
I think there's a difference between assimilation and erasure.
Yes.
Instead of aligning ourselves with the Black community who've been fighting for racial justice and liberation, right, and acknowledging our own privilege and putting our bodies on the line to fight for these movements, instead we banked on white adjacency, and here we are still being pushed.
First of all, what exactly is white adjacency? Is it working hard, having families?
I don't
understand what the issue is. But then number two, wait, let me finish my point. I think it is gaslighting when, again, the majority of violent attacks against Asians are not being perpetrated by white people to blame white supremacy.
White supremacy as a construct is this idea like that the norm of American is whiteness.
Yes.
That whiteness is the default.
Standard.
That whiteness is the standard that we all ought to aspire to. And we deviate from that.
It's not just talking about KKK.
Yeah.
It's not talking about lynchings. It's about a mentality that we have absorbed.
I'm gonna interrupt for a second.
Yeah, so apparently it is cultural erasure, right? To demand that, hey, don't commit crimes. Maybe you should work hard. Maybe you should embrace capitalism, the nuclear family, et cetera, et cetera. Embrace values and traditions in a capitalistic society that help people be successful. Again, apparently that is white supremacy. And this is how they do the mental gymnastics here to try to explain the success of Asians in America. They say, well, they're not white, so they're supposed to be oppressed according to woke theory, right? They're supposed to be oppressed. They're supposed to be at the bottom. However, they're more successful than whites, right, as a group, only because they've embraced white supremacy, right? Again, it really blows my mind. It really does. Everything is somehow a function of whiteness if it's good. More specifically, if it leads to a decent and functional society, okay? Chaos is associated with everything not white, okay? Because this is what they want. They want chaos, okay? Again, having law and order, right? A functioning society, common sense, hard work, okay? Religion, all that is whiteness. Everything good is white. Again, it's so funny to me. The people that complain about white supremacy the most, they seem to give white supremacists the most credit, or in general, they give white people a lot more credit than I think that anybody else in the world gives white people, okay? Because again, according to them, anything good in society is because of whites, okay? They're not saying that on purpose, but that is kind of what they're saying when they assign all the positive attributes that a person could have to whiteness, which again is why Asians are successful, is because they've embraced traditional American values that have been called whiteness. I mean, again, there's a lot of Asians who still, embrace aspects of their culture from back home because, there is some overlap, right? I mean, a lot of these immigrants that came over here already had these values in the other countries that they came from. It's just that in America, they have more opportunity, okay, to move up the socioeconomic ladder because of how great of a country that we built, the opportunities in this country, okay? So they already had a work ethic, they already had the values, there was already overlap there. They just came to a country where there was opportunity and they took advantage of it, right? But you got black people who've been here, forever, right? And still can't figure out a way, apparently, to, do what Asians have done, right? To move up. Still complaining. Oh, we can't do this, we can't do that. Well, how did Asians figure it out? It can't be because we live in an alleged white supremacist society, because again, there are people of color that are allowed to have power, significant power in this country, which again, by definition means that it's not a white supremacist country. So it's not white supremacy. What is it, right? I mean, the systemic racism narrative falls apart as well too when you talk about Asians, right? This country is systemically racist against everybody except whites. How in the world did Asians overcome it? How do they overcome it? Well, again, I'm just saying, it seems to me culture, okay, or trying to assimilate into traditional American culture, embracing that, is the key, right? It's the key, okay? Instead of embracing chaos and dysfunction and crime and broken families and degeneracy and ignorance, right? Maybe you should embrace, again, hard work, being rational, okay? Strong family values, religion. Maybe you should, again, embrace things that we know works, okay? Maybe we should do that. But again, they don't tell black people that. They tell, oh, no, it's not your fault. It's the white man's fault, okay? It's not you. It's not, the culture, okay? It's not the people. No. It's the white man. Again, it's just amazing how that works. Again, conversations like this, again, do show you kind of how different we are as a society. Some of that is good, okay? However, I think forced diversity, forced, inclusion, or whatever you want to call it, I don't necessarily think is a good thing. I think people should try to assimilate into, kind of one dominant culture for the most part. And I think too much cultural diversity is not necessarily a great thing. Okay, it's kind of like the melting pot versus the salad bowl conversation. I'm pretty sure you guys have heard about that. So again, I thought that this was a pretty fascinating debate and conversation. I just had to share it. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.